Hey everyone, and welcome. Now, if you've ever had to manage a telecom network, you've probably felt that frustration, right? That feeling of trying to jam a square peg into a round hole with a traditional GIS. Well, today we're going to dig into a solution that was built from the ground up specifically for people like you. And this right here, this really gets to the heart of the problem. Trying to manage a complex fiber network with a general GIS is a lot like being asked to perform heart surgery with a Swiss Army knife. I mean, sure, it has a blade, but what you really need is the precision of a scalpel. And that's the core difference we're talking about today, the generalist versus the specialist tool. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk more about the problem with these generalist tools. Then, we'll dive into what makes Zonedge different. It's purpose-built network DNA. From there, we'll see how that helps you design with real intelligence, how it creates a living, searchable inventory, and finally, how it all plugs into one single integrated platform. So let's start with that fundamental issue. You're trying to force a tool that thinks about maps to understand the super detailed logic of a telecom network. It just doesn't work right. It leads to all these crazy workarounds, data gets stuck in different places, and you end up feeling like you're constantly fighting your own software. And that leads us to the first huge advantage of Zonedge. It's DNA. This wasn't a mapping tool that had some network features bolted on later. No. It was designed from day one, from its absolute core, to understand and manage the unique world of telecom networks. And that changes everything. Man, this quote says it all, doesn't it? It's something every telecom engineer just gets. Your network is a living, breathing system. It's about connections, it's about capacity, it's about all the little components. It is so much more than just a few static lines drawn on a pretty map. So you can see here what that difference actually looks like in practice. A traditional GIS is basically a map that you have to teach about your network. You have to tell it what a splice is, what a splitter does. But Zonedge, it's the other way around. It's a network tool that inherently gets it. It understands what a fiber splice is, how an optical signal travels from the central office all the way to a customer's home. It just knows right out of the box. No workarounds needed. Okay, so that's the foundational difference. Now let's talk about how that purpose-built DNA actually helps you in the design phase. Because this architecture doesn't just store your data better, it actively helps you design better and, crucially, a whole lot faster. Just think about the old way of doing a fiber-to-the-home design. It's this fragmented, painful process. First, you're tracing lines on the map. Then you have to jump over to a spreadsheet to figure out your fiber connections. Then you go to another tool to document your cabinets, and maybe yet another one to see if there's even space left in the conduit. It's just slow, and it's a recipe for mistakes. So what's the real-world impact of fixing that workflow? Get this. An experienced engineer reported cutting their design time by 40% after moving to Zonedge. 40%! I mean, let that sink in for a second. That's not a small improvement. That's a total game changer for productivity. So how is that even possible? A huge part of it is a feature called creation palettes. The best way to think of them is like pre-made recipes for your network components. I mean, you use the same types of cables and splitters over and over, right? So with these palettes, you configure them once. Your standard 145 cable with its color code, your go-to 1x8 splitter, all of it. Then you can just stamp them out in your designs, which makes things incredibly fast and also ensures everything is standardized across your entire network. All right, so you've designed and built the network. Now it's out there in the world, it's alive. A specialized GIS turns it from just being a static map into a dynamic, totally searchable inventory. You can find anything you need and you can find it instantly. Let's put this to the test. Imagine the call you never want to get. A backhoe just took out one of your main fiber cables. The clock is ticking. Seriously, how fast can you figure out exactly which customers just went dark? Your answer to that question completely depends on the tool you're using. And when you look at it side by side, the difference is just night and day. In a traditional system, finding a piece of equipment by its ID means slowly searching around. In Zonedge, it's a simple keyword search, like Google. And identifying those affected clients from that cable cut, in the old world, that's a complex, multi-step query. Here, it's a single-click trace. The information you need is right there,
exactly when you need it the most.
And that brings us to the final and maybe most powerful point. Zonedge isn't just one application, it's an entire integrated platform. The real magic happens when you break down those walls, those information silos that always seem to pop up between your field crews, your engineers, and your operations team.
You've basically got three core parts all talking to each other. There's Zonedge GIS, that's the powerhouse desktop tool for all your design and engineering. Then you have Zonedge Terrain, which is the mobile app your field crews use to collect data, even if they're offline. And finally, there's Zonedge Web, a simple browser view for your operations and management teams to see and analyze everything.
Let's walk through how that works in a real scenario, say after a big storm. At 10 o'clock in the morning, a field tech finds some damage. They snap a few geotagged photos using the Terrain app on their phone. Just 1 minute later, at 10:01, that exact alert with the photos pops up for the team in the operations center using the web app. And by 10:05, just 5 minutes after the damage was found, your engineering team is already inside Zonedge GIS, redesigning the fix using live data straight from the field. No emails, no phone calls, no delays.
So at the end of the day, when we talk about a specialized GIS, we're not just talking about a GIS with a few extra bells and whistles. We're talking about a system that was fundamentally architected for the unique logic, the specific components, and the entire life cycle of a telecom network. And it's that specialization that unlocks these massive gains in efficiency, that improves your accuracy, and that ultimately lets you innovate faster than your competition.
Look, in a market this competitive, where speed and reliability are everything, using the right tool for the job isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's an absolute necessity. Start designing, operating, and innovating your fiber optic network today.